Hi, warning! This is a very rambly video. This is my part 3 of swatching my Terra Moons collection. Hi, welcome, my name is Marlene, and I forgot to hit record when I swatched these first two of the remaining of my Terra Moons singles collection. I do have a part 1 and a part 2. I'll link them down below, and then I'll also put like little time cards here, but my first video I swatched this row, column, I always forget which one's which. I did this one's, and then for my part 2 I did these and these. So if you're interested in seeing those, I did eye swatches and I showed them in this lighting and in front of a window, a couple windows, and in my second part I did low lighting, which I'm going to do low lighting for this video as well. These are the remaining ones that I have yet to swatch. And then I have some mattes up here, but I'm not too sure if I'm going to get to the mattes. The ones that I have on my eyelids right now that I forgot to hit record on are Purple Clouds and Artemis 2. My first two videos, I did ones that I compared that were kind of similar, like in color or shift. This batch here, it's like none of them are like really paired up. This is probably the ones that are, or these two are probably the only ones that are slightly similar in some respect or like in some regard or whatever. Purple Clouds, let's finger swatch them. Purple Clouds is on this side here. Now, my first two videos, I was like obsessed with every color, and then these two colors in particular, like I feel like there's just something about them that I'm like, I don't really know if they're for my complexion or just really suited for me. So I'm not super excited about these two particular colors. Maybe they might look better on, I don't know. I'm just not vibing with these. But this is Artemis 2. I don't know, what do you think of these colors? Am I poo-pooing on them too early? Like, should I mean, obviously I'm going to use them, find ways to use them, but I feel like maybe this might be, both of these might best be used on me in particular for like little accents, like maybe inner corner or under here, or like in the middle, just the middle of the eyelid, but not an all over eyelid color. I mean, I guess they're kind of growing on me. This one here, not so much, but Artemis 2 is kind of growing on me. This one, it's just, the reflect is too strong on Purple Clouds. The way it looks is like if you have the brightness on your phone, like the screen like all the way up. Like it's just too blinding. Artemis 2 and Purple Clouds. And then this is in low lighting. I'm feeling the same way, where Purple Clouds is just not really calling to me. Artemis 2 is growing on me. And in front of my brightest window here, still feeling the same way. Artemis 2, you can stay. Purple Clouds, we need to figure something out. I don't know, you tell me, is Purple Clouds a color that you think would suit you? How would you make it work? Because I'm really struggling to bond with this one. Hopefully these two make me as excited and happy as the first two batch of singles that I swatched. The next two are M42, which this one already feels very similar to Echo Pulse. This one I did in the last video, but it looks like kind of very similar, or very silvery, right? But then when you swatch it, it's got like this very dramatic red base. That's Echo Pulse. But the one we're swatching today is called M42. Yeah. So this one does have that red base, but it's got like green. This other one it's kind of a little bit more blue, but it still has green in it. Like it's kind of like a gunmetal blue. Echo Pulse up here, and then M42 has that green. I guess it's like Blushing Lizard from Half Magic. Do I have that particular shade? I do not have Blushing Lizard. But I have seen like a lot of swatches of it. And this is kind of like what I imagine it would look like in person. Yeah, M42. Let's put that one on this side. In the first two videos, I posted up pictures. Well, in the first video, I talked about what astronomical or celestial thing inspired the name or the color of the eyeshadow, because Terra Moons does use a lot of inspiration from space or celestial things, astronomy, whatever you want to call it, whatever the correct term may be. And I'll do the same for these, but I did some reading about the pictures we see on the NASA website or from like the Hubble telescope and all that. It was like, how accurate are those to what the things actually look like out there in space?
I've seen beautiful photos delivered from our space telescopes, the Hubble and the James Webb.
Absolutely.
And they're these stunning colors. Have you ever wondered, like, is space really that colorful?
I thought that they had like the equivalent of a white dude with an afro at NASA who just stood and just was like, and now we're going to make a happy nebula.
And what I found out was, yes and no. Yes and no, some of those are accurate, but the way that the Hubble telescope captures these pictures is that it will take black and white images because it measures the brightness of the light, and then it'll get filtered into medium, short, and long wavelengths. And then the long wavelengths will get assigned the color red, medium wavelengths are green, short wavelengths are blue. And that's also what the cones in our eyes do, how it interprets wavelengths. So they'll do that, it'll get filtered out in like 3 images, and then they'll get compiled into 1 image. And then that's how we get the pictures. Now for planets, it's a little bit more accurate. Where it becomes a little less realistic is like when you see pictures of like nebulas and stuff like that, where there's like a lot of gases. Those pictures are a little bit more up to interpretation. So they'll do the same thing because there's hydrogen, sulfur, and oxygen, and they'll assign a color to each of those. Hydrogen and sulfur are seen in red light, so to differentiate between the two, they assigned hydrogen green. So sulfur will be red because it's the shortest frequency. Hydrogen will be given green because it's a little bit of a higher frequency than sulfur, and then oxygen is given blue. So they'll do the same thing. That way we get a more detailed image because, you know, other than just the light, we also get to see the gases swarming around. That is what you see. So it's more of a false color is what they call it, I think. And it's used to communicate information. Anyways, I thought that was kind of cool. And if anyone was curious, like, are these pictures like actual representations of like what things actually look like over there? Like, you wouldn't be able to see the gases with your eyes if you were, like, out there in space. But if you had the capacity to see the magnitude of a telescope, you would be able to see those colors out in space, if that makes any sense. I'm not a space expert or anything like that. I just did some quick reading, and I just found that interesting. But anyways, M66 Drift is the next one we're going to swatch. Oh, this one is like really red too. This one's really cool. I like this deep burgundy red. I'm going to swatch it next to the other two. Ooh, a little crumbly. Oh, this one's kind of gorgeous. Okay. I learned a bunch of other things, but I'm also kind of not sure how much people want to hear about this. But the Hubble telescope's been out there since 1990. The military actually had a very similar telescope. So the technology was kind of like already, the blueprint kind of, if you will, was already there. Only their telescope was aimed at us. It was a spy telescope. So make of that of what you will. And when NASA put out the Hubble telescope, they packed it in the cargo bay of the Space Shuttle Discovery, and then they put it out above our atmosphere, because if we were to look from a ground telescope out into space, there is a lot of kind of distortion or like a blurring effect from looking out into space, and some of the light coming in gets filtered out, so it's not as accurate. So you get rid of that atmospheric blurring effect by actually putting the telescope above the atmosphere. So that's where it's at. And then usually telescopes that are floating out there only last like probably about 3 years. And the reason that the Hubble telescope's been out there for like 36 years now is because they will send out astronauts on missions to do service or like maintenance. And then some of these parts are like easy to repair, some require a little bit more. But yeah, that's why it's been out there for so long. It's because they actually go out there to maintain it. Now, as for like the Webb telescope, which is the newest telescope, that one was put out there in 2021. The Webb telescope is actually located 1 million miles from Earth. There's no plan to service them, or there's like no capability or plan of like going out there to service it. And then that orbits with Earth around the sun. The Webb telescope does. So they both travel together. So then you don't have the obstruction of, you have a fixed focal point pretty much. Because with the Hubble telescope, the Earth will get in the way because the Hubble telescope is out there orbiting Earth. So there will be times when you don't have a clear view of space because Earth will be in the way. But obviously the Webb telescope gets us much more clearer images. I'll put an image here of what the same things look like. One taken with the Hubble telescope and then one taken with the Webb telescope. Anyways, this is M66 Drift. I really love this color. M66 Drift and M42. I'm in love with this color. This is more of like in my color range. Like, I like dark, moody colors. I know it looks all like it's making my eye droopy, but I really like dramatic, bold colors. This one's cute. Not one of my most favorites, but it's cute. Yeah, I really like this one, M66 Drift. And then M42. Like them a lot better than the last two colors. In low lighting. And in front of this window. Kind of, this one's growing on me. But I can't wait to play with this one. I know it looks just like really like overpowering and it's like probably making my eye look very small. but I feel like I could do some really fun, dramatic, moody looks with it. Alright, the next two to swatch out are Reign of Terra and Driftwood. So this is Reign of Terra. This has like a very like indigo type shift. You can lean a little blue. I want to compare this to a couple other shades. I want to compare it to Purple Clouds, the one we just swatched beforehand. That's Purple Clouds. I want to do Artemis too. Okay, that one's in like a completely different family. But then I also wanted to compare it to Moontide, because it's kind of giving similar vibes, and I think you'll see it after I swatch it. I'm gonna swatch Moontide up here. Well, I guess it's maybe not so much. But it was just that blue to purple shift that I was thinking about. So Reign of Terra is up here, and then Moontide's down here. I guess they're very different. Never mind. I thought there was some similarities to it. I redid Moontide down here. Those are purples if you are interested. Moontide, Reign of Terra, Purple Clouds, Artemis 2. I am just off today. I am very sorry. Reign of Terra. Yeah, it's my day off. I really wanted to get some filming done, but you ever have those days when like you intend to do something, like you have all the like planning and intention, and then you just go to do it and just things just aren't falling into place no matter how hard you try. It's just like one clumsy accident after another, or you just keep making mistakes. That's how I feel like today. Like words aren't coming out of my mouth right. I'm just kind of all over the place, and so I'm really sorry if this isn't as well composed as the other two videos. I'm pushing through anyways to just get this out. I'll see what I can do with editing. See if I can make it any better. But this is Reign of Terra. And then the second one is called Driftlight. Yeah, I've just been very tired. My dog's been sick, so I've been having to spoon feed her, or like hand feed her, and she's been having a lot of accidents, so I've been having to clean up after her a lot. And it's been a month now since she's been sick, and we still can't figure out what's wrong with her, and I'm kind of tapped out of money, which it kind of sucks because the vets really like guilt trip you. Like this last visit was an ER visit, and the way that he was saying things was like, well, since money is like your main concern, you know, we can eliminate some things if that's your main concern. Like he kept making it like, since your main focal point is what you can spend and not the health of your pet. And it was just kind of like really insulting, because it's like you have to understand there are limits to how much a person can spend. You don't know everyone's financial situation, and like if I was in the job that I had before, like I had a little bit more extra to play with, but right now things are like a little bit more tight, and I didn't have an extra $3,000 to drop right then and there for additional tests. And that's what he like, I felt like he wasn't understanding. So it was kind of frustrating trying to express that yes, I want my dog to get healthier, but I already just spent close to $3,000 before, and you want me to spend an additional $3,000, and you want the $3,000 up front before you can even do any tests. I don't know. I like don't even want to talk about it, because it's like so frustrating how vets operate. Yeah, so I've just been tired and exhausted and all that, so sorry to vent. I shouldn't be filming if I'm in this funk, but playing with makeup makes me happy, and I'm trying to distract myself from it. Anyways, Reign of Terra is on this side. And then Driftlight, I keep wanting to call it Driftwood, is on this side. Ooh. Driftlight's kind of cool. Not totally excited about this one, but I think I can make it work. Okay, I like these a lot more in this natural lighting. I think if I cleaned up this edge here, it would be like way cooler. I love having that kind of like pink purpley color to this dark blue shift. It's pretty cool. And that one is Reign of Terra. And then it's not Driftwood, it's Driftlight. Driftlight is on this side. And low lighting. And in front of the brightest window. Yeah, these ones are making me happier. While I take this off, if you're curious to hear some other information I found out about the telescopes, the Hubble telescope being named after Edwin Hubble, I think what it was, but anyways, in 1924 he published something that changed the way that we saw space. The Andromeda Galaxy was originally known as Andromeda Nebula, because it was thought at that time that the Milky Way galaxy was the only galaxy that was out there. But from the telescope he was observing, this was a telescope in the ground, or on Earth, not orbiting up there like the current Hubble and Webb are. He noticed that there was a star coming from this nebula. So he's like, wait a minute, behavior doesn't quite match up. And then that's when he discovered that the Andromeda Nebula was actually the Andromeda Galaxy. And then around this time too, he also noticed that several other galaxies were discovered, and he's noticed that they were moving away from us. So they found out that the universe was expanding. That's another thing that I learned too, was that the the way of the color of the gas. You can tell if it's moving away or closer to us. If it's coming closer to us, it's a blue shifting light, and then if it's going away from us, it's a red shifting light. So that's how they can distinguish the two. But they named the Hubble telescope after Edwin Hubble, who discovered this concept of us not being the only galaxy out there in space. The we're not alone. The fact that we're not alone, and I think when they say that we're not alone, that's what they mean. And that's also another thing that I find kind of sad but kind of interesting, that like what we do see out there is what has been. It's not what currently is, since it takes such a long time for the light to travel over here. I saw a reel or something about somebody saying that like if aliens were out there, they wouldn't see us. They would probably see the dinosaurs, because they existed at the time that the light is coming from us. Pretty much what they would see is not our Earth in its current state. It would be something that once was that isn't anymore. And I don't... It's a funny concept to grasp, and I don't know how it makes me feel, because like, it's like everything that's beautiful out there that we currently see just isn't... They might not exist anymore, or that version of it might not be there anymore. But then I also know that there are people who don't believe space is real. They think that we live like in a dome, and then whatever we see out there is, I don't even know quite sure. I'm not quite sure what they think it is. I'm curious to pick their minds, but I'm also not that curious, because I also know there are people that think the Earth is flat. I happen to work with somebody who thinks the Earth is flat, and it's kind of concerning. It's kind of silly, but it's also kind of concerning. But then again, who am I to say that my perspective of how things are is how it should be, right? Or how... It's really hard to say. I don't want to alienate anybody, but it's just... There's a lot of things that make me go like, damn, you really believe that? Like, I know there's people that don't believe dinosaurs exist, because they say that then wouldn't there be like dinosaur bones everywhere, and that most of the dinosaur bones that are displayed in museums are just like replicas or are mishmashes of like random dinosaur bones, and that, yeah, the whole thing of like, wouldn't there be dinosaur bones just like buried everywhere? But isn't that where oil comes from? Like our crude oil is from the bones of the dinosaurs that have been compressed and like broken down over time, and then that's how we have petroleum, right? Isn't oil? I don't know. There's just a lot that I think about that I don't really conversate with people about. I have had conversations, but I would love to ask this flat earth person about why they think that way. But then he's also not a very pleasant person to talk to, so I just kind of don't want to. Like, the curiosity's there, but I just also, the reasonable person in me, the logical person in me just says, just stay away, let it be. Curiosity killed the cat, right? Is a saying for a reason. So, I'm not even gonna ask. But, last two are Saturn's Aurora and Ruby Satellite. And I think I used these in my first video, but I never, I swatched them. This is Saturn's Aurora. Ruby Satellite in my Blend Bunny Haunt Me palette video look. Let's do Saturn's Aurora on this eye. There's a really good video that Neil deGrasse Tyson put out recently. I'll link it down below. And I think it's kind of an important video to watch. Because it kind of talks about the funding to science research and all that stuff. But around the time that we discovered that the Andromeda Nebula was actually a galaxy, there was also a lot of research going on about quantum mechanics or quantum physics, if you will. And they were discovering the behavior of molecules, atoms, electrons, nuclei, and this is the reason why we have things such as like computers and stuff like that. Like this birthed digital information. Like because of this research, we have, you know, circuit components and all that stuff. Point of that being said is that they were researching these things, but you couldn't have known that the research to this would have led to us having pretty much like the IT boom or like the computers, and like it's the reason we have circuit boards and all this stuff. It's because if we understand these molecules, these atoms, electrons at this level. I know this is going a certain way that not everyone might want to hear. So just turn the volume off if you don't want to hear it. The way we're taking funding away from scientists, from research programs and all that stuff, we're becoming a nation where we're not at the forefront. And other countries are starting to poach our scientists. So I feel like we're going to start falling behind, which is fine if other countries are the pioneers of what's next to come, right? I'm just saying that just go watch his video. He puts it very eloquently. Of course he does, because, you know, he's Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's like freaking intelligent as fuck. I'm just a blithering idiot. Anyways, Ruby Satellite. Told you today I was really off. Got a lot on my noggin. A lot of thinking. This one's kind of hard-panned, and I don't know if it's because I played with it recently and maybe I got like oils in it. I'm gonna try to clean it off. But yeah, it's good to be curious, and it's good to want to always be learning. And others are saying that the time allocated for using the Hubble telescope, it's like you have to present the purpose of why you want to use it, like your research pretty much. You have to present it before like a board. And then they decide amongst the people that presented the purpose of why they want to use this. They'll decide who gets that time allocated to them. I never thought about it that way, how like they have to use the time with this telescope very wisely. Like it's not an unlimited amount of time of like, oh, you can just go use the telescope whenever. They have to present why they want to use the telescope and for why or for what reasons. But even then, like when someone is using it, they'll collect the data and they like store it, and other scientists all over the world have access to this, and they can use the raw data that they collect and do their own research on that. But the director of it himself can claim time. It's not the current director, but one of the previous directors, he claimed time to look out into this area of space that was pretty dark. Not a lot of stars were out there, and they were like, it's kind of dark. Do you really think this is a wise use of our time with the telescope? And he's like, let's just aim it out there. So they aimed it for a few days, and they collected the light that was coming out. And then this time is actually one of the most significant captures of space that we've gotten. And this led to the picture that we have of the deep fields. Yeah, it's a very famous picture called the Hubble's Deep Fields. It gave us a much more deeper understanding of the universe. But this image really kind of revolutionized the way we see the universe. So this very frivolous use of the telescope ended up creating this very significant image of space. But anyways, I'll stop blabbing because I'm stammering all over myself and my tongue's getting really tight. And we just want to see the eyeshadow swatches, right? So this is Saturn's Aurora. And then this is Ruby Satellite. I have fallen in love more with Ruby Satellite. It does have this like darkness about it, but then it also has kind of like a fuchsia color, other than it being red. This one looks very silvery. Saturn's Aurora. Why do I have a feeling like I swatched that already? Like recently. It doesn't look very pink there, but it looks very pink at some angles. Let's see. Well, there you can see the pink. Like, it's very pink there, straight on. I think I might have swatched this on my own and I was having trouble getting the... Ooh, Ruby Satellite. That one's kind of epic. Saturn's Aurora, I don't know. It's kind of muddy and kind of hard to capture its full dimension. See, it looks very pink there, Saturn's Aurora. But I feel like the pink doesn't come off as much as I would want it to. All I really see is that like silvery gunmetal-y color. Yeah, not a fan of Saturn's Aurora. Yeah, it just looks like very like pink and like happy and bright, but all I really get from like most angles is this dark color. And it's just maybe one of those colors that's also not for me, because I'm looking at it in this mirror and all I see is this darkness. And I wish I could see that, but all I get is this. So also not one of my favorite things. I'm kind of disappointed. This batch was just full of... I'm not really wowed. And I was off and I was rambly and I'm I'm gonna put a little warning on the thumbnail that this is gonna be rambly and that these aren't gonna be my favorite, just as a pre-warning. But if you stick through it this long, thank you. I appreciate you, and I'm sorry I was not able to give my best to you today. I will try to do better next time. I humbly apologize. But I hope to see you in another video. I'll promise to be a little bit more on point. But I hope you take care, and